na, 'di ba? Parang inaarte mo na. Tapos tapos ang nakikita mong paggamit sa language yung scripted pa. Usually yung scripted pa 'di ba yung parang di totoo, gusto mo dun ka ng kumukuha ng insight na kasi may brand ng kesyo ganito, may brand ng kesyo ganyan, tapos may business daw yung may-ari nito, may business siya. O sige, okay. Kumbaga sa Tagalog, tawag ka ng tatay mo, boy. Tawag ka, boy, boy. Tawag ka ng tatay mo, boy.
Hey, what's up? My name is Rez, and you're listening to the Rezbt S Podcast. If you can hear me right now, and you're using your headphones as well, I decided to wear this thing over my mouth so that you could see how stupid this is, how sort of illogical this is for a type of person as myself. And I'm sorry for the inconvenience. I bring you yung kapayapaan ng mga Tagalog, especially ng base Tagalog na talagang topic ko sa theory, na theoretically, topic natin sa podcast na ito. If you can hear the difference, you should check out how I look. I look even more stupid. Tatanggalin ko na on the no. Let's keep it there. On the video feed of the podcast, nilalapit ko na lang ngayon muna dito at try kong magsalita ng mas maayos para sa mga listeners. Pero naka-blue mask ako ngayon, yung mask na pipitsugin lang, yung hindi N95. At siguro I will share as an intro why this looks, well, it looks good on me, I guess. But in general, it is kind of stupid because it's scientifically proven that viruses are slower and airborne. So, walang kwenta actually to be wearing this kind of mask. You wear this kind of mask to really just block off mucus or sipon or just regurgitate it to yourself, you know. This is the first time ever I've tried speaking with a mic like this. I'm sorry for my usual audiences, mukha akong tanga. Kahit di naman talaga, right? But yeah, the logic of not the uselessness of wearing this is basically one, you can't speak, your voice gets muffled. No one wants to listen to you. You don't look rich. Let me get this trash off my face. You don't look rich. Yan, nilagay ko na sa floor. And, you know, historically, there's been many accounts or many sort of stories in history, in old books, that wearing a mask over your face is a sign that you have a master, that you have like you are a worker, you are what do you call that? Yung kumbaga yung may mga panaklong sa ulo, yung mga may mga pangtakip sa ulo. Usually that's a sign that you are working for someone. That's usually kumbaga if I am to express this in my language, ang sasabi ko lang is that reminds me a lot of slave and master morality. And slave and master morality is, I think, Nietzsche as well, going back to that deep sort of philosophy of things. Welcome to the show. I want to welcome you to like a base Tagalog welcome. If you kind of don't make sense of that yet, it's because that's the name of the podcast recently. That's really the sense of the podcast. It means res base Tagalog dash scene slash school slash ganyan. So I'm developing this linguistic theory that I call the base Tagalog theory of everything, which doesn't mean that we kind of run things around. It just means that the base Tagalog or base Tagalog is a theory na yung one language ng mga taga dito sa atin nagdi-divide na. And ever since growing up, maraming nasa utak ko na nagpapatunay na there's people speaking Filipino, using Filipino as a language, as a national language in fact, up until mga 2020. But the theory is, upon 2020, medyo sort of expire na yung Filipino. And so when we communicate, we actually communicate in base Tagalog. That's the theory so far, diba? Theoretically, ibig sabihin, sinasabi natin na nagbe-base Tagalog na tayo. And if you're a first-time listener, hello. My name is Rez. I'm your host. And then if you are, let's slow it down a bit para hindi masyadong excitable. Yeah.
If you are a long-time listener, hi, my name is Rez. I'm a recording addict, and now I'm working on podcasts. I'm doing podcasts now. And the premise of this show is yun nga, yung pagtatagalog that postulates that Tagalog sounds like this. And by saying it like that, I really mean to say, as a theorist, that as a futurist, that when Tagalog sounds like this, it means that we are incorporating a lot of English words and worlds already. And by doing that, we are able to talk about a lot of things. You know, we're able to incorporate the sciences of English. We are able to incorporate the tropes of Western history with our own understanding of Filipino as now an Eastern sort of race, right? So kung nandun ka na parang iniisip mo, ano, Eastern race, para tayong brown Chinese, eh, diba? Kumbaga may white Chinese, may yellow Chinese, may white Japanese, may yellow Japanese, may shining Singaporean. You gotta get my drift over there. And then now we have the brown Filipino. And on my case, it's really like the mulate, diba? Yung mahilig sa coffee, mahilig sa woke shit, mga ganyan. And so if you kind of resonate with that sort of intro, then para sa itong content na to. Anyway, coming back to that, why I know I wore the mask in front of you guys and why it sounds stupid is because one, I speak into the mic, so it really sounds stupid when I use the mask, diba? Actually, sa labas, when I speak to people or pag you know, my point is my point is like, hindi ba parang sobrang deprived na natin of real talk that minsan kailangan tanggalin mo yung nasa mukha mo. Kailangan ayusin mo naman yung communicating face mo, yung parang kunyari, no one really has this like no one is showing propensity for communication if they have their faces covered, right? Like if someone really wants to talk to you, you kind of really want to feel that they are talking to you, na buka yung bibig nila, na bumubuka talaga yung bibig nila, na talagang sinasabi nila yung kung ano nilang gustong sabihin. Eh kung scripted naman yung, for example ako, I don't have anything in front of me except for my notebook and I'm recording live from my studio right now. Live by live, I mean real time. There's not going to be a lot of cuts since it's long format. It's the whole show that you are going to be appreciating here. And now, still on the topic of wearing masks, we now know a year after a pandemic that the coronavirus is airborne. It means it's in the air. It's everywhere. And on my case, for example, nakwento ko lang sa tita ko. My tita is sleeping with our house right now because they came from the province. And then nakipagkwentuhan lang ako kanina umaga. We got to share some information and some vibes. She hugged me. She gave me a hug because we haven't seen each other since the pandemic. And then, I mean, I get all that. But what I mean lang naman with coronavirus upon being airborne, it's not, the masks really don't help, right? We know that by now. We know everything about the coronavirus that na pwede nang malaman. And I remember personally, ang comment ko dito is, for a while, when we didn't know the true nature of this virus, I was learning skating, inline skating, rollerblading last year. And parang narinig ko nung nag-aaral ako sa ulan, umuulan kasi tapos nag-aaral ako, syempre mas madulas, mas okay. Nag-aaral ako mag-skate sa labas. May bagong parking lot na ginawa dyan sa may bahay namin, sa may village namin. Then doon ako nag-aaral. Syempre, alam naman lumabas pa ako ng labas na labas. Although I have done that. Nakapag-skate na ako sa ilalim ng mall. Nakapag-skate na ako. Nag-trespassing ako sa construction. Tapos nag-skate din ako doon. Binidyo ko pa. Ay, sinita ako ng mga guard. Anyway, but my most sort of memorable experience there is when I was skating, learning around to skate, may mga nagko-comment dun sa kabilang baryo na sabi, lakas naman ng loob na to, hindi ba may pandemic? Bakit naliligo siya sa ulan at nagsiskate pa siya sa ulan? And I did that, and I vlogged about that, sabi ko pa sa sarili ko, kung talagang may virus at talagang sobrang potent ng virus na to, dapat matsugi ako dapat magkasakit to or matsugi ako just by sa, sa pamamagitan lamang ng pagligo sa ulan. Eh naligo ako sa ulan, 3 weeks after, I felt fine, nag-skate some more pa ako. Skate some more. And then, like technically 5 months after, I'm still here. I'm still sort of madaldal. Wala man lang sort of changes sa akin. And this just goes to show that if you believe in stronger things, if you believe in stronger information, for example, I knew then that I didn't really need to wear masks. So I didn't really need to follow the executive order that you have to wear masks for security's sake. I mean, the logic behind that, hindi ka lang basta sunod ng sunod. Inaaral mo rin kung bakit. Inaaral din natin, bakit kailangan sundin yung ibang mga things, right? So bakit nga ba kailangan sundin natin yung mga things? One, if you understand the logic behind something, then kailangan mo sundin yun. For example, kung ako, hindi mo naman ako naiintindihan, huwag ka na sumunod sa akin. It's not worth being a follower of this show of me if you can't sort of understand where I'm coming from with things. Now, the idea is I'm building this podcast. I'm trying to have a better audience. I'm trying to really increase the numbers so that I can affect more. I work around with the 80-20 rule a lot. Um, which, for example, in my case also, diba, sa show na to, I mean, I mostly speak 80% base Tagalog now and around 20% Chinese, especially when I mentioned Someday Dream because nag-evolve na yung Someday Dream which is my musical project that I'm gonna end this year. But yeah, as me as the host of this show, this Rezbt S Podcast show, I still work around with the 80-20 percentile na what I'm saying usually, kung di mo pa ako naintindihan is put some math into it, break that down. Sabihin natin, itong pinapakinggan kong show, sabi ng host na to, sabi na nga niya mismo na 80% based Tagalog, 80% English-based Tagalog or English with a lot of Tagalog words. And even that itself, I'll explain later, based Tagalog is usually like 80% English, 20% deep Tagalog tropes, right? You should write that down if that confuses you. But in the show itself, the content is mostly 80% serious-based Tagalog theorizing. And I have my tone for that. And then 20% Chinese, 20% anything goes kind of I don't need to be understood kind of stuff. So I'd like to really, you know, expand on that intro that I'm big. We are big on this show, the listeners of this show. We are big on logic training, sort of babad, deep work na tinatawag. Yung talagang if you resonate with this kind of thing, then it's really more of how do we learn to relax. Diba? Usually naman hina-hype up ko lang yung intro and then yung iba, they just vibe off from my energy sa intro. They kind of want to know what kind of mood I am on for the day of this recording. And then vibe off from that. And then they nakakalimutan na nila na this is a long format show. So it doesn't, alam mo yun, it won't work if after 4 or 5 minutes, nag-tune out ka na. I mean, that part will work for you. But as, kumbaga, yung part na mismo ng show, sinasabi ng show na preferably, you take in most of it. And it doesn't matter naman talaga if you're listening on any platform. But long format, regardless of platform, is really long format, meaning nagbababad ka talaga. And if you can't make babad, kunyari, hindi mo pa mahanap yung sarili mo na magbabad sa Res BTS podcast, okay lang yun, hindi naman tayo namimilit, hindi naman kami namimilit, diba? But I propose it as a sort of an opportunity for us to sort of bond, for me to be able to guide you, instruct you, and create sort of like relaxation audio for you, or instruction as a creator. Now, if you already know that you are a co-creator of anything, you're an artist, you're sometimes after work you kind of wanna make some arts and crafts, as a basic creator, or if you wanna eventually also learn how to podcast or do content creation, then this is the podcast for you. Bagay na bagay ka dito. But preferably, yung para marespeto mo yung podcast, para makuha mo yung full design, is that matuto ka to take in the full thing. Pwede naman pahapyaw if you're like not the main listener, if you like someone's listening and then nakikikinig ka lang. But if you are the main listener, the technique really is to keep it on the background, do some stuff, And then whenever you want to focus on my voice, you wanna or focus on the content or alam mo yun, something, ayan na, kunyari natutuwa ka sa sa struggle ko na mag-Chinese, edi doon ka na makinig ng masyado. So, for example, sa struggle ko ng Chinese, I'm literally just learning some characters right now. One of the more important characters that I've learned that I am now confident to share about is the character Sang. So when you check out Someday Dream, the first character there is Sang or Mulberry, right? That character both means that character both means Sang as the sound and the character itself, which is Mulberry. And recently, I've been doing a lot of research on Mulberry. Apparently, you know, apparently mulberry is a very sort of sacred material because it is the tree that makes a lot of the strongest paper around in Asia. Let me repeat that. Sang means mulberry. Mulberry. That's the character that I will focus on now. If I kung tinuloy ko, Sang Tien Soche, Soche means illusion. Sang Tien is Mulberry Days. So sometimes I refer to Someday Dream now as Mulberry Day Illusion. Sangtien Choche. Sangtien Choche. So the way I just say it is when I say that Someday Dream is back now, Sangtien Choche Siensa Hulala, which is Someday Dream is back now, right? The very, very first character there is Sang, which means mulberry. Now, mulberry is a tree. I don't have the scientific name now, but mulberry is a type of tree na in fact kakabili ko lang sa Lazada ng mga puno ng mulberry. Apparently, pag pinutol-putol mo yung mulberry, even the cuttings, yung branches, itusok mo lang sa ground, magkakaroon ka na ng bagong mulberry tree. So, ang trip ko talaga ngayon, mamili ng mga bagong cuttings ng mulberry. Tapos tinutusok ko dun sa lupa-lupa dito sa mga paso-paso. Hindi nagkakaroon na ako ng mas maraming mulberry. Yun ang trip ko talaga ngayon. And it's really more of that understanding that makes me feel good about learning even just the character that is Sang. So again, when I say Sang Chen Che, it means someday dream. That's my chosen naming of Someday Dream because Someday Dream bata pa ako eh. 18 years old pa lang ako, may Someday Dream na project ko na yun. Akala nila ako yun, pero that's actually my project. My musical project at first. Eventually 4 or 5 years after, people also realized that Someday Dream is more than just the music, more than just Hey Day Dreamer, more than just that, all that sort of drama. It's also about Lewin. It's also about co-creation and like group thinking, group making. So it's all that encapsulated, I think, in the character Sang. If you look at the character Sang, it really looks like a tree. There's a branch sa baba, the lower branches, the lower sort of kumbaga the main root and branch character sa baba. And then sa taas, they're all like leaves. There's 3 types of leaves, right? So if you draw that, you start with the at least when I do that and I actually sign with this character. When you sign that, it's really the branches and the roots and then the leaves. Parang ganun yung itsura, 'di ba? Ganyan lang naman yung explanation sa mga Chinese. Talagang kung ano yung itsura ng character, yun na rin yung meaning nun. Kumbaga they don't simple lang sila mag-isip eh, yung mga gumawa ng mga character na to na kunyari, there's a character for rice for example. And I literally recently found out that the character for soul has the rice character inside like a stomach character, parang ganyan. So there's if you're on the video feed, I'm doing the character for stomach na parang box lang, stomach lang sa taas. And then inside that is a character of rice, which is I think parang tatlong tuldok lang, tatlong slash lang na maliit. And yung pag-explanation daw doon, even already by a Chinese teacher, sabi niya na kumbaga kung base Tagalog ko yun, sabi niya lang na talaga is really kasi kung explain niya ng mga Chinese character writers, sinasabi lang nila na kung magtuturo ka about the soul, you should have rice inside you. Eh ako naman, di naman ako nagtuturo masyado pa ng mga matters of the soul. I really teach a lot of matters of the heart. which is above the soul. Above the soul pouch, sort of in between the stomach and the mouth. And I teach a lot about passion because I now am figuring out that this is what I love talking about. This I love talking about my own artistry. I love talking about how I got to piece together things from my past and now develop a new future for myself. The way I see it is like lahat ng bagay nahuhulog. Lahat ng bagay nahuhulog. Even your past memories, sometimes they feel as if, when you think about your past too much or you planted yourself too much in the past kind of thing, masyado mong inisip yung past mo, kind of propel yourself forward using that wind, right? Sa Tagalog, parang kumbaga yung past mo, masyado mong naniniwala ka sa storya ng past mo eh. Naniniwala ka sa mga sa mga nangyari sa nung nakaraan, then you sort of really make this propel you forward. That's your wind, right? You don't want to go back there. But at the same time, mainit yun eh, diba? Mainit yung listeners. For the listeners of this podcast, I kind of wanted to really make this video for you guys. Para habang mas nakikilala nyo ako, or then also I could get to know you more the way you sort of. So here goes. This is just like a not so serious 15-minute video production for this day. All about me. So all about me. Really boring artist cell. That's me when I was a bit younger. That's my desk, virtual desk. Okay. So hey guys, I thought since it's a new decade, I should make a new video. This video is all about this decade so far, so 1 year pa lang. Because 2020 I became super creative and then I thought it would be cool na meron akong default video. Parang this is my default pakilala video. If you want to get to know me, I also want to get to know you. This is just a compilation of images that I have produced and previews of my new work. And then I'm commenting on it live as we speak. And then you can share it or show it to anyone you want na pakilala mo sa akin or sa sarili mo if you wanna know me more as an artist. So thank you for being part of my lifestyle as an artist. I think I started this year really just showing more of my visual side. I always say that I'm a visualist. This is sort of just my style right now, coming from, yan yung dati ko pang style, ng bata pa ako, ganyan talaga. And then I started drawing anime eyes, or like, I have been trying for 15 years and I am producing this sort of quality now. That's a picture of 3 girls, that's another girl, anime girls in general. This is Armored BLT. I call it the Armored BLT design. That artwork is for Molate. You can check it out. Some random Asian girl over here. We all start with that. That's a monk. That's a kalbo guy. We all start with that. This is like a cherubim type of design. I don't know how it fits yet. Another random Asian girl. Random. And then this is my original style. Mula pagkabata ganyan na talaga ako mag-drawing. Hindi ako galing sa fine arts. So as you can see, my style really is like the struggle between, fine arts and abstract arts. Di ako aral kasi. This is an illustration that I like. I really like. That's another version of the design. So these were all, pinalabas ko to mga early of this year. I like this page a lot. I'm taking note of the pages that I like. That design naman is for 2 lovers. Yeah. This is an old man sort of design character. This is a clean page that I really like. And then yan, incorporated dyan yung Luwin. If you're aware of Luwin. So this is like the wall that I've been making. They're all pen and ink lang so far. And that's my room actually. That's my room right now. That's where I sleep. I live a normal life. I take my vitamins. I draw like these armored things. Parang bahay. That's sort of like a witch. A witch, right? And then that's again the armor that I've been drawing for a while now. That's just a zoom of her eyes over there. And then yeah, that's like a nice page as well. So there's themes of tribalism, right? That's my drawing table when I was putting it up. Short hair me. Okay, so that's my abstract art really. That's really what I've been working on since 2017. This kind of style. That's the theme really, and this is the icon image that I've produced during that time, 2017 and 18. I'm a normal, parang oldies kind of guy. I live in Monte Vista Village around here. Sa may dulo ng Aurora between SM. I do podcasts now, of course. And then marami akong mga kapatid. I like this drawing a lot. This is a reproduction. That's my dog. That's Vito, I think. Then I have a brother who's in New Zealand. Who just got engaged. And yun, marami nga akong kapatid eh. So, yun. This is kind of really my style sa analog work. Yan, yung ganyan. Pastel yan. So, recently, Rezbt S Podcast, 2020, I started the podcast. It's more long format. It's more like studying the tropes and arcs of the modern world using my native languages, which is English, Filipino, Tagalog, etc. And then I'm using it more of like a technology, and then sharing it with people, make things easier, make things, lighter. And then sana basically magamit siya ng mga digital natives like us. We're all in the digital, we all live in the digital world now. So that's the point of doing this. Welcome back to the Res BTS podcast. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Res BTS podcast. It's me, your host again, Rez, and after that small break featuring all about me video that I have created recently. I kind of want to go back to the purpose giving statements of this podcast. If you're listening and you're using your ears actually, and you're keeping me on the background, sort of to bring you my latest thoughts and my latest reactions to things and my sort of development in the base Tagalog theory of everything. For me, it really is because I'm doing this because I think, there exists an air of indiscriminate care for our existing language. Merong ere na parang, meron akong naaamoy na ere na wala na tayong pakialam sa language. Sa totoo lang. Hindi na natin inaaral, especially in our race, 'di ba? Tayo kung easy Pinoy lang or easy peasy kind of rich folk or easy peasy kind of vibing kind of um, uh, hooligans lang tayo, 'di ba? Is there literally and obvious to sa maraming tao, hopefully kung wala pang nagsasabi sa inyo, sinasabi ko na that did you know that there exists an air of indiscriminate care for our existing language? Kung mas i-breakdown pa natin yon, talagang napapansin ko na as a musician, as a someone who observes a lot, who logs things down, napapansin ko na parang wala na tayong pakialam. At parang meron tayong lumulutang na tayo dun sa kayabangan na parang wala tayong pakialam sa language. And that cannot be. That cannot be for me, especially as a recordist. And that's just my point. Ako lang naman sa ngayon nung nagsasabi nun, it doesn't mean na walang kwenta yung statement na yun, diba? I actually think there's a lot of things that you can say just by saying that as a premise for why things should exist. Na wala tayong pake dun sa existence ng language natin. Kaya kung wala tayong pake, magiging indiscriminate tayo, hindi na natin hinihimay-himay kung bakit ganito tayo magsalita, kung bakit nakakalimutan na natin paano salitain yung mga oral tradition, kung bakit iba-iba na, kumbaga parang okay lang sa atin na iba-iba na yung sasalita natin, iba-iba yung belief systems natin. And that's the root actually of not just, I'm not saying it's word violence, but parang yun yung root ng differences and indifferences between people. So in order to restart the linguistic faculties using base Tagalog, let's say naniniwala ka na merong existence ng base Tagalog that uses a lot of English incorporated sounds in order to talk about the tropes of Tagalog. In order to use this to restart the linguistic faculties, yung pananalita, yung faculty ng pananalita, paano ba itinuturo yung ganitong way of speaking, saang format ginagamit, is it formal, informal, para lang ba to sa pagtuturo, para lang ba to sa sharing around, or is this to track where people are at with their beliefs and their systems and their way of living, for example. Kunyari, ako, diba, as a podcaster, I use it a lot. Meaning, in this episode, which is episode 69, I've used it in 69 episodes, basically, in a span of 1 year. And me being able to talk like that, for me, ang ibig sabihin lang nun is I am able to restart my linguistic faculties na may bago akong sinasabi. And it's important for someone like me because my listeners wouldn't be loyal to my content. My sort of, the listeners of the show, people who sort of look up to me as someone, because I have been making content like this, sharing around information like this, which is higher level information. For the longest time, I think ever since when I was 15, I was really all about that, translating a lot of the existing stories, translating a lot of yung mga naririnig ko, tinatranslate ko sa sarili kong lengguwahe, I think, na eventually sinabi ko na, hey, I think this language is just basically called base Tagalog. Because naisip ko na sinasabi nila na ang language daw natin ay Filipino. Nung 2020 na, and around before mag 2020, naiisip ko na, oh, I kind of have to report on this as a citizen, as a aspiring public intellectual. I kind of have to report that in 2020, don't you think that a lot of people are actually also saying na yung Filipino language is for pussies? The Filipino language is a marketing tool, right? So ibig sabihin, kung hindi na tayo nagma-market ng something, 'di ba? Nagma-marketing lang tayo ng Filipino, hindi naman na tayo ganoon, 'di ba? Nagtatagalog na tayo or ginagamit na natin yung mga ginagamit rin ng mga sasabi nilang Tagalog daw sila. So, ibig sabihin nun, meron pa tayong sinasalitang internal language. And that internal language, I think, is base Tagalog. And a lot of people also, not just myself, but when I have been talking about base Tagalog, paunti-unti with some people in the base, literally part of my base. And, kumbaga, it's a very, I think, it's easy to accept because one, there's agawan base, right? As a play. So when you set up a base, may mga kakampi ka agad. When you set up a base, meron ka agad na mga kakampi. So all you have to do is figure out how strong is that base? How based is that base, diba? When you figure out how based that base is, then you figure out on what terms should you join it or on what terms should you look at it or listen from it, especially because there's sound coming off from that base. Now, I'm talking about the show only, right? Just the show. I'm talking about why I made the show. Again, because there exists an air of indiscriminate care for our existing language, and that rhymes already, so that must be true. If you're kind of creative about things. In order to restart the linguistic faculties using base Tagalog, kailangan natin alamin yung pinakamagandang medium para sa pagre-record nito. Again, I wrote that down as like some text format here. Just to be able to practice my salita, yung practice my show, diba? We're sort of also all about the behind the scenes, how things work out. I if you're listening from Facebook, which features the vidcast video, I actually show haphazardly around the space where I record this stuff. I am actually in an actual recording studio. I have converted my music studio into a podcast recording studio. You can talk to me about that more, at the back side. Just PM me if you're interested in podcasts. But now, behind the scenes, I'm thinking I'm saying in this show, this is the platform for the show na talagang sisimulan na yung pag-restart ng linguistic faculties gamit yung base Tagalog. Siyempre kung may theory ka, hindi mo nagagamit, ibig sabihin, baka useless yung theory na yan. Pero if your theory is nagagamit mo, in 2 or 3 years, mas nagagamit na ibang tao, na amin na nila na parang, oh nga, no, there's something in this base Tagalog coinage, right? Kailangan natin alamin ang pinakamagandang medium para sa pagre-record nito. And me as a modern person, as someone who believes even in the postmodern audio industry, obviously yung pinakamagandang medium, pinakamagandang container, pinakamagandang parang kung saan siya nilalatag is a podcast long format sort of creation cycle. What I mean by that is kung hindi ko ang kailangan ko lang naman sabihin, this is how my logic works, diba? Going back to how logic sort of builds up on itself, na kung kailangan ko lang naman pala gamitin yung base Tagalog, salatain ng salatain, i-record ng i-record, in order to restart my linguistic faculties, in order to manifest something new for myself and for to make a better world, right? Yung logic ko starts with, edi i-record mo. 'Di ba? I-record mo, Rez Toledo. Gawin mo na 'yan, 'di ba? Ikaw na rin nag-imbento. I mean, ikaw na rin nag-coin. I didn't really invent it. I just really called it something because I thought it was really already happening in the world, right? Or in our world. Sabi ko, sige, re-record ko na lang long format. I started doing it 30 minutes at a time during the pandemic. Of course, out of the shock of the pandemic, apektado yung pagbe-base Tagalog ko. 30 minutes at a time, pagod na ako, hingal na ako. Alala ko yun. 40 minutes na nung nag-start na ako, nakakausap na ako ng ibang digital natives. And then, nowadays, nabibitin na ako sa 1 hour and 20 or 80 minutes, 90 minutes monologuing with it. So, I challenged myself further to doing this monologic series. And sa pagmo-monologue ko, doon ko na integrate lahat na wow, pwede ko naman palang gamitin tuloy-tuloy. And be happy about it, be sad about it, have sort of run through all those emotions na of human stuff. Human emotions, I kind of have to bring myself up there. Na if a language is a higher level study, I kind of have to bring myself up there. Paano? By not talking about low stuff, by not being bastos all the time, by not being malicious about it, by really just studying it, and yung hindi ginagamit ko lang siya para makapangmura ng ibang tao or magpapogi, diba? Siyempre, there's other things. For example, writing about it, for example, diba? So now there exists an air of indiscriminate care for our existing language. Obviously, you can see it around. People just talk like they're gamers, talk like paulit-ulit, talk like toxic shit. Sometimes they feel like they can talk what they type, but then what they type really is what they wanna talk about, but can't really talk about it when you put it on a long format medium. This difficulty is what I want to focus on because that side naman is on the verging on the psycho-developmental aspect of things na some people are psychically enabled to type stuff. Genius EPIS class, thumb typing. Psychically enabled, I think I would say. Psychically enabled, like mentally they have the propensity to type things down, write their own fictions, create their own groupings of words, but sometimes it doesn't match who they are in person, diba? And even if it matches that, even if they're a way of communicating digital world expression, even if it matches, even if they say it matches them personally, they can only go up to like 10 or 20 minutes doing that. And from practice, I know for a fact that 10 to 20 minutes is like a show format or like a short presentation format, right? Anything more than that, 30 minutes to an hour and a half of doing it is totally, an extreme version of what you're saying, of what you are. So, diyan ko natutunan na ako as being someone of an extremist, somewhat of a practitioner, diba? Of extreme practices, of extreme knowledges, of extreme learning, na if I could drive it to there, then I would filter out all the fakeness. So kaya parang mapapansin nyo sa, even in other podcasts and even other shows, all the fakery, all the introductions, all the showboating, all the shit posting, sa simula lang yan. Once malampasan mo na yung filtering out, and you are expected to tell the truth, you are expected to expose, you are expected to talk about yourself, I soon found out that the only way I could do that is if I can elongate it, if I can stretch it out na na kahit pa madumi yung simula, kahit pa nangangapa yung simula, if I could stretch it out, if I could go up to this point and be able to say, this is what I'm all about, then this is, and then you kind of feel it, diba? Yung parang, then na mas napapakilala ko yung sarili ko as my real form. I had a struggle with this because growing up, I was a matinee idol, parang yun lang yung only ano dun eh. And best friend ko na mismo si Vio na actually nagsabi sa akin no na matinee idol ka kasi bro. Matinee idol means, I didn't even know what matinee idol means then. Ang alam ko lang matinee idol yung from anime, right? Diba? Pero what a matinee idol really means is like student. Yung student ka palang idol ka na. Diba? Or student ka palang tinitingala ka na ng mga maraming tao. And I grew up like that, diba? Now I'm saying that I'm 30, that one of my greatest discoveries or one of my greatest points right now as a higher level thinker, as a public intellectual, is that A plus B, things should be able to add up now. Na, 'di ba? I should be able to make sense. Bakit ba ganito yung mga naaral ko? Bakit ganito yung experiences ko as bata? Kunyari bata ka pa, 20 ka pa lang, 18 ka pa lang, or ganun ka lang mag-isip, baka pwedeng ka-age na kita, pero yung pag-iisip mo, alam mo na nasa 18 ka pa lang, 'di ba? O kaya ano ka na, 40 ka na, tapos pero meron kang sa saloobin mo, meron kang habituals na kagaguhan na ano ka pa lang na sasabihin mo 20 pa lang ako, 20 para kasi akong 22 mag-isip. Anyway, that should still be able to add up sa kung paano ka magsalita, paano mo itrato yung serious things, right? Because A plus B should equal to another C, which is the more valuable results-based kind of thing. And as a result of my studies, as a result of my career, I found out that, there exists an air. Meron tayong ere. Meron tayong ere na minsan hindi na natin hinihingahan, hindi na natin hinihigop, hindi na natin pinapakialamanan. Basta alam lang natin nandyan yan. Merong indiscriminate care for our existing language. And what is our existing language? It's both a lot. Filipino, Tagalog, kahit ano pa yan, even the dialects, meron diyang ere. And that air, usually I point out to this, dalawa lang din. If I'm able to share this information, dalawa lang din yung nagsusubtract dyan or bumabawas dyan. Yung sinasabi ko is, sa pag-study natin ng mga ganitong usapan, sa kaka-usapan natin, yung ere na to, I think, dalawa lang yan pinanggagalingan. One is tech denial. Denial of technology, denial of skill, right? And I wish to really go deeper into that, right? That's one, the denial of skill, denial of technology. And two, mitigated, of course there's a lot more. Two is mitigated speech. Yun yung talagang bumabawas. So, naiintindihan nyo, yung logic ng pagtuturo ng ganito is as we add up things, tumatanda tayo, gumagaling tayo, mas marami tayong natututunan. At the same time, meron pa rin mga bumabawas, nahihiya tayo, nagkakahiyaan tayo, nagkakaroon tayo ng mitigated experiences. Mitigated means yung may pagpipigil, may kahiyaan, may sort of mitigation, merong pagpipigil. Kunyari, kung kausap mo ba naman ay presidente, hindi ka ba naman magpipigil, diba? Siyempre magpipigil ka man kasi siyempre may katungkulan yung tao eh. Meaning, even the presence of listening or meeting with that person, if you don't set up the purpose, ako naman, I'm on teacher mode right now. I'm really on exposing what I've known as an artist growing up. Na, diba? So, easy-go-lucky, kinda, you can put me on the background, you can skip me if you want. If you don't love what I'm teaching right now, if you don't like my tone, it's fine. But all I'm about right now is for those who really want to focus on what I'm really telling them. Maybe you're getting into the sana all philosophy kind of vibe now. Maybe naiisip mo na there's something here. I kind of want to stay on this because this is what if you are able to share this thought with others, madali lang naman eh. Sabihin mo lang naman, did you know that Filipinos speak a different language now? You kind of want to start with that because I started with that. I started calling Filipino the pussy language, diba? Filipino being like slogan hell na ganito daw yung mga Pinoy. Pag Pinoy daw, ganito yung characteristic, ganito magsalita, laging hospitable, laging mahilig sa mga Americano stuff. That kind of stuff really is more of marketing to me. And now that I speak Tagalog, I just really say, as Tagalog, hindi ba parang meron na tayong ere na wala na tayong pakialam sa lingwahe na sinasalita natin? Diba? Sabihin mo lang yun, matutunan mo lang salitain yun para sa sarili mo. Gayahin mo lang yung sound na ginagawa ko. Ma-experience mo na yung higher level of understanding na parang may patotoo dun sa sinasabi natin na theories. Meaning, yung theories kasi hindi pa dapat nag-a-apply eh. Hindi pa siya dapat, technically hindi pa siya dapat na-apply sa buhay. Eh ako na-apply ko sa buhay ko as a podcaster. Yung ibang tao na na-apply nila na siguro sabihin nila, ano kasi sila eh, iba Filipino yung trabaho nila eh. Meron silang Filipino work, meron silang Filipino advertising, meron silang Filipino commercialism and 2K Pinoyism na nalalaman. So, if Filipinos are really based on Tagalog if Filipino is really based on Tagalog, kung sinusunod nung ni na to, yung main ni, the ni that works, the language that works, di makinig tayo sa pagbe-base Tagalog ngayon, 'di ba? Kasi yung obviously yung base Tagalog is nakasulat na nga is based sa Tagalog talaga, 'di ba? And now, I think, as a Tagalog, whatever the Tagalog means to you, ang sinasabi ng show na to, ang purpose ng show na to, yung sinasabi ko na sa Tagalog, meron tayong ere na hindi walang apathy, parang indiscriminate care dun sa existence ng language natin. Of course, the language exists. Hindi naman makapagsalita yung mga tao if the language does not exist. So again, it really, the main sort of crux of the show is, did you know that there exists an air of indiscriminate care for our existing language? So in order to restart the linguistic faculties, using the base Tagalog, using this theory, the base Tagalog theory of everything, I think, or we might get somewhere dun sa, sa pag-iisip, dun sa pag-realize na kailangan nating alamin ang pinakamagandang medium para sa pagre-record nito. Because, for example, in audio, tape and silicon is used to create audio, 'di ba? Tape, disc technology, CD drives, magnetic tapes, yun ang ginagamit sa audio. During those times, during the modern times, now for text naman, there's paper and ink, 'di ba? It's the same sort of recording, but there's a way na magandang medium na pinaglalagyan nung na yon, yung kumbaga yung art na yon, yung content na yon. So in such that there is silicon and tape and magnetic for audio, and for text there is papel and tinta, there should also be a new format or a really good format na kababagayan nung pagre-record ng base Tagalog. Okay? Great.
Hey guys, this is Rez. I want to invite you formally to a group. It's called Rezbt S Podcast Hub. Search for it on Facebook and join anytime.
In the town where I was born, the time is slow and the government is filthy. And the people's sense of music sucked. It's because they thought what other people did was always better and healthy. They never really cared much for what was new and what was savvy. They only tried to love what they themselves can copy.
So what is a monologue? A monologue usually is one person just talking a lot, you know. Sa panahon ngayon, pwede ka naman mag-monologue into a mic. Yung iba nga, ang ginagawa nila, nagmo-monologue sila, tapos nire-record nila sa mic, tapos ine-edit na lang. In my case, a monologue for me is around 80 to 90 minutes long, talking about a lot of things. And also just maybe using this mic as sort of like a mirror, right? But what I really like about monologuing is bukod sa napapractice ko yung salita ko, kung ano yung sinasabi ko, parami rin ng parami yung natatanong ko sa sarili ko. Uh, one of the best really that I've experienced for myself is really, yung sabi nila, tinatawag nila tong Socratic method which is yung pagtatanong and even answering questions with other questions, right? So, kunyari yung tanong ka ng tanong, di ba? Sa kakatanong mo ng kakatanong, na laman mo na yung mga maraming sagot. Syempre, marami ka rin nasasagot. So, sagot ka naman na ngayon ng sagot. Kasi nga, tanong ka na rin naman ng tanong. One of the best questions that I really experienced recently in this podcast, just to give testament to, I think, the progress of my theory and why exactly you should be using it for yourself and why exactly you should be, parang kumbaga, I'm suggesting here that maybe you should think about, parang pag-isipan mo na paano mo i-introduce ito sa ibang tao, ibang ibang kayang magtagalog, na hindi naman kasi porke Tagalog ka na or marunong ka na magtagalog, titigil ka na lang sa na yun, sa kaalaman na yun, na parang because you attach certain identities with Tagalog. Yung mga Tagalog na nakakapag-English, binabali na nila sina-style bend na nila yung pagtatagalog. Katulad ko, di ba? Sinasabi ko nga na yung base Tagalog is this and that, right? One of the greatest questions there is, before you can even do that, is the question na, is the Filipino worth is the Filipino worth re-educating o pera na lang, di ba? Kumaga, kung i-breakdown ko pa yan mas sa'yo as a listener, don't you think that the Filipino is just worth like pera-pera lang? Mga ganyan ba? Paano ba tuturuan, di ba? Should we have hope in teaching all types of Filipino? Should we really expend a lot of... How can we show that we have hope for Filipinos, for this country, right? Diba? And who expresses that? Whose responsibility is it to protect the Filipino from brain drain, to protect the Filipino from like the dangers of the mental stuff, the dangers of mental health awareness, diba? Kung ano-anong awareness na yung binebenta sa atin, diba? Doon pa lang ma-realize mo na sa pagbebenta ng napakaraming awareness at chuchuchu, na parang yung iba nga nagbebenta ng awareness ng Pasko, hindi naman lahat ng tao dito naniniwala sa Pasko, hindi naman lahat ng tao dito nagse-celebrate ng Pasko. Kung gusto kong mag-celebrate ng Pasko sa April, gagawin ko, 'di ba? Kaya kong gawin 'yun, 'di ba? Kung yung iba sa Pasko lang nakakapag-celebrate ng Pasko, ibig ko lang sabihin is paano mo ituturo yung mga hindi pa talaga naituturo, 'di ba? At kanino mo ba ituturo? As for me, whenever I ask that question to myself, or whenever I get into that sort of nationalist sort of discussion, is the Filipino worth re-educating? I really understand this as like, ano, sino ba yung maaalagaan mo at sino bang kaya mong alagaan? This is obvious to a lot of people, we only really need to get reminded na yung kaya mo lang naman talaga alagaan usually is your brothers and sisters. Your brothers and sisters meaning that you can those who treat like you are family with them, your clan with them, like you're bra with them, or you're close to them that way, so usually a normal person can hold up to 150, close people. So close kayo dyan, malapit kayo dyan, magkakakalink na kayo. You can maaalagaan mo yan ng in your whole lifetime if you are handling, if nagpapatawa ka, or if kausap mo mga libo-libong tao, hindi mo, parang kumbaga, wag ka na umasa na maaalagaan mo lahat or magkakaroon kayo ng buong mind. So you just run the numbers, man. If you have 150,000 fans, and 150, that's 1% of that would be 150, right? Tama? Diba? 1% lang. Kumbaga yung effort mo na 1%, kumbaga yung 1% effort mo, dapat ganun kagaling, hindi ba? Na ganun kagaling na kahit yung 1% lang yung marinig nila sa'yo, maaalala nila na, ay, close ako dyan, diba? Kilala ko nga pala yung mga kalibre na tong taong to. Or ikaw mismo, diba? Kung nakikinig ka sa akin and I've seen that you have sort of shown me the love lang kind of thing na parang, and I appreciate that, because that's signaling for me eh. That's parang, okay, gets mo na, okay, gets ko na yun. Approve kind of thing. That really brings me to like, that just really brings me to normality of caring, right? Caring for each other's messages, caring for each other's sort of, kunyari gusto natin magkatapat-tapat, diba? Yun nga yung translation ng iba sa Shinto Angular approach na basis din ng base Tagalog. Nasasabi ko, yung base Tagalog is actually a Shinto Angular approach. Base Tagalog is actually a Shinto Angular approach. It's using the lens of Shinto Angular. Yeah, it's using Shinto Angular approach as a lens, diba? Meaning, it's a very natural imagination, diba? Yung medyo may mga characters, may animated ness of nature, yung it incorporates what do you call this, not animation per se, but also anima, animism rather, that this belief that natural things have spirit, this belief that natural things have gifted us with sort of religion because, yung mga dati sa Hapon is like yung mga kami, yung mga gods of the river, gods of the sky, gods of the water. These all have taught us something, and coming from that, diba, bilang galing dun, we can use that as a lens now to study using base Tagalog, studying na kung ano yung mga nangyayari. Meaning, even in the digital realm of things, sa higher level way of thinking of things, bakit ganyan nangyayari sa digital? Ma-explain mo ba yan? O susundan mo lang? Kailangan mo ba talaga i-explain sa sarili mo o sunod ka lang ng sunod? Yun nga yung binabalikan ko sa simula na hindi naman porket nagmamask ako is naniniwala na ako sa threat ng COVID. Diba? I do think it's real. I don't deny the pandemic. But the threat is really low. Diba? The deaths are low. Even the president is lying. Even in our country, for the 25% of my US listeners, even in this country, our own president is, just only joking about the existence of coronavirus, diba? Because it is actually just sipon. Sabi niya parang, ewan ko, if I might have read it wrong, pero parang sinabi niya, isa lang naman yung namatay sa ganyan. So like, alam mo yun, he's not now, the president is anti-doctor in his, end of his term. So pinapabayaan na lang din. Lolo na siya eh. So medyo pabayaan na. And then we can't even confirm what he speaks, right? If he's speaking like based Tagalog ba o based Bisaya ba, may ganun ba o alam mo yun, it's really, but now, regardless of politics, the point is, paano mo ngayon ituturo yung mga modern things sa mga primitive na mag-isip, 'di ba? Kung di ka naman primitive mag-isip, 'di ba? Naiintindihan mo yung squamine, naiintindihan mo na intellectuals or yung mga nag-iisip, they always usually flock to the culture of Manila people. Because yung mga matagal na nasa Manila at nag-iisip sa Manila at yung trabaho nila sa Manila ay mag-isip, may naaabot na silang matulin na theories, matulin na ways of pag-iisip in Tagalog, in the natural language, na hindi mo na basta-basta mapapasok kung hindi mo na lang din aaralin. And it takes at least, I think, 3 years in order to learn actually that. So if you don't start now, even if you're 40 and if you didn't start before you turn 40, then it might take you 10 more years in order to na mapasok yun. And ano ba naman yung value ng mapasok yun? Ang value ng mapasok mo yung something is to tantamount to saying that you completely understand or like at least majorly understand something, especially if it's something scientific. Lalong-lalo na kung based siya sa science, kung based siya sa empirical truths. Yung truths na kahit saan ka pumunta, totoo, constant. Kahit saan ka pumunta, yung tubig is tubig, H2O. May dalawang hydrogen, may isang oxygen. 'Di ba? Kahit saan ka pumunta, tubig is tubig, 'di ba? Meaning, yun ang tuturo ng empiricality ng science. Yung kahit saan ka pumunta, the evidence shows that this is true everywhere, right? That mindset, the lack of that mindset, yun yung doon tayo natutsugi eh. Kasi parang nagiging lahat na lang postmodernism, lahat na lang parang, is this a game? You know, and doon naman tayo talo, doon naman tayo sort of babali na. Because we're also in the postmodern industry, postmodernism is a lot of things, you know. If you find someone funny, kunyari for example, 'di ba? Mukha ko palang nakakatawa na sir, mukha ko palang tontuwa ka na kasi ngayon palang Heyday Dreamer addict ka na doon. Na tuwing nakikita mo yung mukha ko, natitempt ka na talaga pakinggan yung Heyday Dreamer, manood ng music video ko dati, nung bata pa ako. Anyway, I'm not all about that now. I explain why. But it could totally mean that for you. And now, maybe if you don't totally naman, if you're the type naman na parang, mga fans mo naman kasi, Res Toledo, puro mga babaeng maliliit na blah, 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 or mga fangirls mo, ganyan. There's a whole faction of people who follow me or like that. Now they're looking for my serious side, diba? Yung serious side ko na parang, okay, what is this guy talking about now? Ano na naman yung trip na to? And now, it's my responsibility to bring it to them, diba? So you want that? Do you really want that side of what I could say? And what I'm saying now is this, diba? What I'm saying now is the Filipino really worth re-educating o pera na lang? I'm really asking that to a lot of, even to my listeners, postulating that, not postulating that. Yeah, postulating that as like, ano ba, a trope na, an arc na parang ako, deep inside, tinatanong ko talaga, paano ba isolve dong pagiging Filipino if you wanna be nationalist about things? If we wanna start talking about Filipino stuff, if I wanna bring out in me yung tinatawag din lang pagka, patriotism, right? Patriotism lang naman yan sa akin eh. And I get that, I get that. So, I ask people, is Filipino worth re-educating ba? Kailangan pa ba kaya yung tinuruan mo ng tinuruan, ba kailangan pa rin mag-suffer ka na for teaching them? Parang di na, diba? Di na. Di na, may PS4 naman ako. Ba't kailangan ko magturo? Wala naman nagbabayad sa akin magturo, diba? Libre lang to, chong. Free education lang to, diba? Matuwa tayo sa mga ganito dapat. At sa mga katulad ng gumagawa ng ganito. Pasalamat ka na nagtatagalog ako, diba? Pasalamat ka na kaya mo akong intindihan ng ganitong katatas na pagtatagalog. It's because I understand that, 'di ba? Sa ganito ka naman pinalaki, sa ganito rin naman ako pinalaki. And I have to speak it in order to practice it. I have to talk about it this way. Not just that, kailangan ko magtanong din. Kailangan ko din hindi nga lang magtanong yung parang kailangan ko rin ipakita na meron akong galaw na na nag na nagiging obvious na meron akong pinupuntahan, meron akong targets, 'di ba? Na hindi yung okay lang ako dahil nakakatulog ako ng mahimbing, dahil meron akong pagkain sa umaga sa gabi, meron akong mga kaibigan, marami akong mga kaklase na chicks, marami akong mga matatanda ng tita na dude, to be honest, I have listeners, I have fans, I have like so maybe you guys, meron na kayong mga anak. Oh, 'di ba? So, 'di ba nauna pa kayo sa akin in terms of anakan? Wala pa naman akong anak eh. 'Di ba? But my progress is in my work, which is like to progress with what I am thinking as an intellectual. 'Di ba? Which is now, I'm really just asking as intellectual, is the Filipino really worth re-educating? Hindi ko naman sinasabi na hindi tayo aral eh. Ang sasabi ko, baka nakakalimot ka, kailangan pa ba kita paalahanan na kung ano na yung natutunan mo? Eh kung natuto ka ng Filipino language tapos 2021 na, pinipilit mo pa rin yung Filipino language, eh marami na nga nagsasabi na para sa akin, yung Filipino language, marketing lang yan. That's the cover. That's the cover language of the Filipinos, man. Diba? The Filipinos will always want to speak in Filipino. They will always want to show that they are Filipino because that's the easiest thing to do. That's the easiest thing to do. You know, you always see flags in schools. There's a flag ceremony. You can always go nationalist about stuff, and the nationalists will always talk about the nationalist tropes. The nationalist tropes being politics this equals this color, politics that equals this color, and then this color is now bobo, this color is now, you identify with these colors, and you sort of assign human characteristics, group thinks into these color systems. And then I coined it also. Pinag-usapan ko rin dyan yung acronysticism, 'di ba? Yung acronym na mysticism pa, 'di ba? Again, acronym na mysticism pa. Ginamit mo na nga yung letters, pinadali mo na ng ano. And it's also, a technology, I guess, so that we can talk about that. But then patulin na ng patulin yung mundo, marami nang nakakapagsalita ng ganyan. And minsan naman sobrang obvious naman yung gusto niyo pag-usapan. Gusto niyo lang naman mang-degrade, 'di ba? Gusto niyo lang naman sabihin na tumatalino ka na. Ba't kailangan mo pa bang sabihin na bobo yung ganitong ah, assignment dun sa acronysticism? And who really identifies with that, 'di ba? Hindi ba lahat naman? So it literally just cancels it out. If a lot of people identify with one acronym, then it just sabihin mo na lang yung tao, 'di ba? Hindi mo naman kailangan sabihin na yung acronym na yun. Sasabihin mo sila yun. Lahat naman ng tao ganun, 'di ba? Lahat naman ng tao alam yun. So parang ang nangyayari sa yun, parang kang na-stuck ka na nga dun sa tar pit, 'di ba? The boat is sinking, meron ka ng quicksand na, alam mo yun, na-stuck ka na nga, nagrereklamo ka pa, magalaw-galaw ka pa, wag, tumigil ka na, fucking chill the fuck out, don't move a lot, listen to the silence, and then it will come to you what sort of the next move is, if you can. For me, that's the purpose of doing monologues like this, doing sort of like making easy it that way, because I couldn't anymore. For example, I don't call anybody. I don't. I'm aspiring to be a public intellectual, diba? So I don't call a lot of people. I don't call my bosses. I don't call my. I don't call the my past bosses, or kumbaga, people I've worked for or with in the past. I don't call them because I'm under the expectation that if I am needed, 'di ba? Kung kailangan yung puwet ko, di dadalhin ko na yung puwet ko doon, 'di ba? Hindi naman marunong naman ako maglakad, kaya kong takbuhin dito hanggang sa Cubao. Mula sa Cubao, kayang-kaya ko na pumunta sa Ortigas, 'di ba? Lakad lang yun, wala pa yung Uber or taxi, or alam mo yun. And that's just funny because, parang we take these things for granted, right? We take things how we take I think we take accessibility for granted, na porket alam na natin yung accessibility, we don't have to talk about it. Sure, we don't have to talk about it, but does it mean that we don't understand it? Does it mean that we've maxed out the understanding of something that exists? Kaya nga pinag-uusapan sa transhumanismo is yung mga bagay na talagang binibigyan tayo ng existentialist risk, dapat binabawas na natin. If, for example, you can't live with a freaking phone, you can't live with a phone so advanced that it lets you photograph the moon. If it lets you photograph the moon, that means you're more capable than the scientists of before, right? Tagalogin natin para mas mabagal. Kung meron kang telepono, you spent like 30,000 of your sweldo, 20,000 of your sweldo, pumili ka ng telepono, tapos, 'di ba, yung telepono mo sobrang nakakapag-zoom. Sa sobrang nakakapag-zoom yung telepono mo, ano ka na, feeling photographer ka na. Okay? So actually, photographer ka na rin talaga. Basta may telepono ka, photographer ka na. Videographer ka na nga eh. Kulang na lang matuto ka mag-edit, director ka na, diba? Pwede ka nang maging Hollywood vlogger. Diba? So, given that, alam mo na yun eh, minimix-mix mo na yun. But you don't totally explain that to yourself. You don't totally explain, that a photographer sees art in framing things. Diba? Yun yung definition ko at least, or a definition of a lot of people. Right? How then can you get better at that? isipin mo yun, na binigyan ka yung tools. Yung tool, hawak mo na. Hindi mo naman alam saan mo gagamitin. Right? Sino magtuturo sa'yo? It's the same with language. Babalik ko lagi dun sa language, diba? Babalik ko din lagi sa character formation, right? It's the same with language. Language, nasa iyo na eh. Hinihingahan mo na eh. Ginagamit mo na. Diba? Parang inaarte mo na. Tapos, ang nakikita mong paggamit sa language, yung scripted pa. Usually yung scripted pa, di ba? Yung parang di totoo. Gusto mo dun ka nang kumukuha ng insight na kasi may brand ng kesyo ganito, may brand ng kesyo ganyan. Tapos may business daw yung may-ari nito, may business siya. O sige, okay. Di ba? O kaya yung business ng ano to siya, nakakapag-resonate kasi Bicolano eh, or Bisaya or Ilocano or whatever. Kasi gusto mo mag-resonate with ganyan, yung karatig bayan, di ba? Yun yung Tagalog nun. Then all fine and well, right? But now you go up to the higher level of things na intindihan mo na at the end of the day, base Tagalog rules, right? Base Tagalog rules. At the end of the day, pag matutulog ka na, kung may gusto ka talaga sabihin, kung may gusto ka talaga alamin, hindi ba kahit naman may translate, kahit naman nasasabi mo in English, Indian, or Hawaiian, or with your English accent, with your Australian shitmate, you know, hindi ba kahit nasasabi mo naman sa ganun, hanggang di mo natatranslate dun sa hypothalamic, the main language mo, yung litid ng pagsasalita mo, kumbaga yung main word system mo, main filtering system mo, pag di mo na-translate dun, hindi ba sa tingin, hindi ba tama naman na hindi mo talaga maintindihan? May logic ka na eh. Makapag-isip ka naman na eh. Diba? How much of the things you say you can talk about do you really understand?
Hey guys, this is Rez, the creator of Someday Dream, reminding you that a new Someday Dream music single called Two Lovers is still out on Spotify and other music listening platforms. You could go ahead and share and play that song for your loved ones and friends. Again, thank you for being part of Someday Dream all this time. Happy listening.
Muli na bang napatukso ng matingin sa'yo? Mali na bang mawalay ang mundo sa totoo? Muli nga bang bumabalik pag-ibig na husto? Naghahanap ng oras na mapalapit sa'yo. Huwag nang mag-alala, hindi na to tungkol sa masaya.
Again, thank you for being part of Someday Dream all this time. Happy listening.
Welcome back. My name is Rez. I'm the host of the Rezbt S Podcast. I'm broadcasting live from Future Studio. I live here around near the river, and I speak base Tagalog for the purpose of theorizing the base Tagalog theory of everything. And before this, I discussed that there exists an air of indiscriminate care for our existing language. And in order to restart the basic linguistic faculties using a new theory that is based Tagalog, para may ulit natin ulit, para mabuhay ulit natin, or para ma-jumpstart lang natin yung pagbe-base Tagalog, hindi ba dapat alamin natin kung ano yung pinakamagandang way, pinakamagandang medium para sa pagre-record ng bagong content, bagong language, bagong ways of pagsasalita? Hindi ba dahil kung hindi natin kayang isalita, hindi natin kayang gawing totoo. 'Di ba ang magsasaka, kung hindi niya kayang i-express na kailangan niya ng mas marami pang seeds, mas marami pang papatubuin, kung hindi niya kaya i-express yun sa sarili niya, kailangan ko ng ganitong klaseng halaman, ganitong klaseng pandilig, ganitong klaseng panahon. Tatlo na yun. Kung hindi niya kaya sabihin sa sarili niya yun, hindi niya kaya sabihin sa anak niya, hindi niya kaya sabihin sa asawa niya, sa trabahador niya, empleyado niya, di ba hindi mangyayari yon sa future, di ba? At hindi ba kung hindi rin natin alam ayusin yung natin, yung past natin, kumbaga yung season 1. Kunyari nasa season 6 na tayo ngayon. Kung hindi mo maintindihan yung season 1, hindi ba hindi mabibigyan ng katuturan yung pagiging nasa season 6 natin? Okay, napakatalinhaga nun. So, I kind of wanna end this episode by again talking about sang. Sang, 'di ba sa atin sanga, branch, 'di ba? Yung sang pala sa China, sa Chinese traditional characters is sang is the character for tree, puno, or like a mulberry, specifically mulberry tree. So if you sign it, it's like the branch and the roots sa baba, sa taas may tatlong leaves. And I sign my name like this, right? Bradley Chong, Sang Chochong, Sang Tse Tse, Sang De De, which is someday dream, diba? Because someday dream, in its characters, if you've seen the page or if you've been listening to me for a while now, someday dream is Sangchen Tsuche, right? So when I say Sangchen Tsuche, since that means someday dream is back na. What that means now, if you kind of want to break it down, the very, very first character of that is Sang, which is mulberry. Now, the significance of mulberry, apparently I realized and I studied for a year now, total of a year, that mulberry is a very important tree for paper making. Kumbaga, if we're talking about the higher expression of this, it's a sacred, material, diba? Yung mulberry, pag ginagawa ng materials, basically ginagawa siyang papel. And makikita mo yung papel na to pag pumunta ka sa Japan, ito yung tipo na papel na pinapamigay nila sa parang booth bago ka pumunta sa templo, 'di ba? Bago ka pumunta sa templo, merong booth, merong mga papel doon, may mga nakasulat doon na sort of like in the fashion of fortune cookie kind of thing. To sort of trigger you into a spiritual sort of mood, and then magdadasal ka doon sa templo, whichever God they believe in. And, I'm not here to discuss different gods and gods naman, pero in a way, that's the real life experience na nakapapunta ka na sa Japan, 'di ba? Yung the mulberry paper is used. And that's what sang means in China. In the Chinese character, sang is really a mulberry tree. Yung puno ng mulberry, puno na ginagawang papel. So the significance of that is coming back is hindi ba na para ma-record natin yung mga text. So for example, sacred text or text na importante, re-record natin sa magandang papel, diba? So ang ginagamit natin, papel plus tinta. Papel is A, tinta is B. So, now that you have papel plus tinta, magkakaroon ka ngayon ng resulta. Yung tatawag na C. Diba? Yung mga boss nyo, kailangan nila ng results, diba? Pag pangit yung results mo, ipa-fire ka nila eh. So, you have A, papel. And then B, tinta, ink, right? So yung C, kaya mo naman nagagandahan ka or napapangitan ka sa C is because if you're the boss, you have authority. Kung di yun yung ina-expect mo na C, di makakakuha ka ng, maaabutin ka, diba? Kung yun naman yung ina-expect mo, then C should be good, right? In the same way, in audio recording, in video recording, in our modern times, we use memory right? What we call memory, yung nasa data, now umabot na ng terabytes. Nung bata ako, sobrang mahal na ng 256 megabytes, gigabytes na drive. Pero ngayon, medyo mura na yung, I think, a 1 tera is like 4K, kaya na ganyan. So, 1 tera naman is sobra-sobra na rin yun na memory, diba? But the point is, we are recording big data, audio data, any data, um, into silicon memory now. Um, uh, Usually SD, solid SSD, solid state drives, hard drives. Solid state, yung meaning that the hard drive doesn't have any moving parts anymore. It's all like it's literally a block of silicon that that has the capacity to record bunch of things. For example, in businesses like BPO where they're recording, 'di ba? Kunyari BPO ka, 'di ba? Kunyari caller kita, 'di ba? Imagine mo na lang, 'di ba? Caller ka, multiply my work by the thousands of people working in one building. If they're recording that somewhere via internet or somewhere, then it's in their systems. Their systems have this server, and then the server is connected to this recorder, to this recording system that just records everything on tape. There's just this systems na nagre-record lang na pag di na nila kailangan to or they can pull this off, IT na nila yung bahala doon, 'di ba? Alam mo na yan dapat by now. Na yung IT yan ang tatrabaho nila kasi for training purposes, nire-record ka nila, pinapakinggan ka nila. Pinifeed lang nila yan sa AI. Diba? My problem with that, as an advanced thinker is how much of that data is going to scientific research? How much of that data is going to linguistics? How much of that data is going to AI? How much of that data is like parang how much of that data is being used to create sort of you know to solve a problem, a specific problem, for example, diba? It's because I am convinced that there exists an air of indiscriminate care for our existing language. Yung existing language natin ngayon, sasabi ko nga yung Tagalog, base Tagalog, Filipino, Pilipino, Ilocano, Bisaya, kahit ano pa yan, technically speaking, in terms of language, meron niyang root, meron niyang sinusundan, meron na branch, meron niyang kahit saan pa nakadikit yung mga yan, since nag-uusap lahat ng tao and it's sort of elevated, it's accelerated. And then the way we think pa of content, 'di ba? Trending onomatopoeia, how language moves space, how sort of we're coming up now with industries like podcasting, which is a purely speech-based, music-based, speech-based and music-based, trends-based art form na nga diba? Na you could be poetic about it, you could be just practicing it, you could be meditative about it, you could be conversational about it. In my case, ang ginagawa ko lang sa ngayon is nagmo-monologic series ako para talagang may develop pa yung theory na to. Now, if things fall into place, diba? Lahat ng bagay na huhulog. Saan ngayon magko-fall yung problema na parang walang nag-aaral ng language masyado sa atin, 'di ba? At sino yung mga karapat-dapat mag-aral ng language mismo, mag-practice mismo nung pagtatagalog? Sino yung mga higher level na tao na talagang kailangan mong pakinggan? Kasi sila yung nagtatrabaho nun eh. Sila yung tumatrabaho nun. Yung tumatrabaho ba ng entertainment, kailangan ba papakinggan mo lagi? Kailangan mo bang araw-araw mong nakikita yung gamer? 'Di ba yung game streamer? Where I'm coming from, why I'm sharing this is kagabi lang bago ako matulog nakikinig ako ng Zen Buddhism audiobook, nakikinig ako kay Peterson, nakikinig ako kay Kaku. Um, so naisip ko, man, talagang tinatamad na talaga ako sa games eh. Nafe-feel ko na yung parang games didn't feel as unless it's a triple A game well marketed, especially nung dahil bumagsak yung cyberpunk blunder na yan. Nasiraan naiintindihan ko talaga eh yung mga sasabi ng mga galing lang sa games, diba? Mga galing sa gamers. Naiintindihan ko talaga na sira na talaga eh. Parang habang tumatanda tayo, although there are AAA games, there are companies na talagang yumaman na from the gaming industry. Minsan man, yung mga pag nangyayari yung mga cyberpunk kind of stuff, bagsak eh. Bagsak, diba? So parang tatamarin ka all throughout. Babalik ka dun sa mga pinaka-basic games mo. And now, my basic game is really communication, diba? Unang course ko sa college is Comtech. So communications and technology, diba? Tapos medyo tinambad ako sa Comtech. Sinama ko yung isa kong klase. Sabi ko, dito na lang tayo, lipat na lang tayo. O di lumipat ako sa isang course na to, medyo mas mahirap. Nagtapos po ako ng MIS. Yung isang kong klase naman parang nagdoktorat or something. Anyway, the point is, I went up to on a higher level. And now, since I don't want to dip at all so much in like 6 hours gaming, 6 hours Zelda, 6 hours Counter-Strike, 6 hours Dota. I'm not a Dota player, pero you get what I mean, diba? I'm at the point now na medyo marunong na ako. I have no future in building a gaming company, right? But I think I have a future in focusing on building a podcasts business and also like talking in format of a language-based show, a technology slash language slash culture slash kung natutuwa ka sa mukha ko, di comedy na rin, diba? Kasi minsan mukha ko palang nakakatawa na eh. Pero usually naman seryoso na rin talaga ako magsalita, which is sometimes even funnier for some of my followers or some of my listeners, right? Especially when they miss my tone, right? What I'm really saying is like, kung kunyari tinatamad ka na or nafe-feel mo na yung boredom, nafe-feel mo na yung lack of meaning ng mga kung ano-anong bagay, that's really a cue for you na ano ka na, kumbaga sa Tagalog, tawag ka ng tatay mo, boy. Tawag ka, boy. Boy, tawag ka ng tatay mo, boy. Alam mo ba yun? Yung, oy, merong nakatakda para sa'yo. Sa tingin ko lang. Umaabot tayo sa mga time na gano'n na, boy, tawag ka ng tatay mo, boy. May nakatakda na, na kailangan mong maintindihan. Doon lang sa meaning. Sa meaning pa lang tayo, basic pa lang. Wala pa yung mga detalye, di ba? Kumbaga ano pa lang tayo, ghost fighter pa lang tayo. Wala pa tayo dun sa mga talagang labanan na, tas wala pa namang tournament eh. Wala pa naman dun sa dun 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 dun. Wala pa tayo dun. Wala pa tayo dun, diba? Nandito pa lang tayo sa kinikilala pa lang natin kung ano yung mga characters, sino-sino ba yung mga kasali, sino-sino yung mga audience lang, tapos sino-sino yung mga kalaban. Diba, ganyan. Andyan pa lang tayo sa trope na yan. Especially because in the other parts of the world where also other Filipinos exists, they're experiencing a lot of winter, a lot of snow, a lot of cold. Maswerte na lang tayo, nandito tayo sa tropical country. Kaya natin to live a very peaceful sort of rain or shine kind of day. And if the weather is always fine, then we can extract our power from that. We can extract our vibe from that, diba? Sa pagsasalita ng ganito, pinipilit ko na salitain yung totoo, kasi hindi man matatagal ng 20 minutes na nagsisinungaling ako. Walang ganun. Hindi, walang industriya na tatagal tatagal. No industry will stand the test of time if it weren't based on some truth. Kahit naman 20% lang yung truth mo okay na yun, diba? Alam naman ng matalinong tao na yung 20% na sinasabi mo na tama, na totoo, dun yung panghahawakan nila. Dun mismo tayo gagalaw. Hindi tayo yung parang 80% lokohan, so 80% lokohan ka din. Hindi ata. Parang ganun, diba? If you wanna get serious with anything, if you wanna get serious kaya ka nga nag-aral, kaya ka nga nagtapos ng college, diba? Hindi ka naman nagtapos ng college para pasayin yung magulang mo eh. Marketing nila yun eh. Marketing yun sino ba nung marketing nun? Yung supportahan ka. Diba? Laging panalo yung magulang. Hindi, panalo yung bata, bro. Diba? Ano mong, diba, hindi naman porket sumikat yung commercial na ganun. Diba? Which is, I started with this and I'll end with this also, na bumisita nga yung tita ko, kapatid ng nanay ko. We shared information a bit kanina, clan and all. And sabi ko na andito na ako sa part na to. And I think what I'm really trying to explain my buddies, to my friends, to my listeners is like, umaabot na tayo dun sa times, dun sa pagkakaintindi na whatever it was from the past that was being marketed to us, it is now being nahuhulog na ulit sa now natin, sa present natin. Nahuhulog na ulit siya dyan. It doesn't mean that we have to react to it as a past thing, that it's bad or good. It just means that it is what it is. Diba? Na yung something from our past, it affects our present. Right? So it is what it is. So what about our past is part of the present, diba? For example, yung mga buhay, hindi naman sila namatay, di mo lamang part pa rin sila ng now. Hindi naman sila, porkit na-cancel mo na sila nung past, is like, di na sila pwedeng sumali sa now mo. Diba? Yung pagsasalita na ganyan, hindi naman din porkit masakit yung tono o talagang binibring up yung past. Hindi naman porkit ganun, kailangan mo na agad i-discount as mabigat or magaan. You know, who are you to measure? Who are you to measure, diba? You are here to listen, right? Bilang bata, you know, we are here to listen. We are here to follow, right? We are here to make things work. Especially if you're the working class type, you know, if you want to work, if you want to get rich, if you want to get inspired. What I'm really trying to say, I think, yun nga, yung panahon ba na kailangan mo muna i-realize na talagang pinalaki tayo sa marketing eh. Pinalaki tayo sa mga commercial BS, yung mga suportahan ka. So ang pag-iisip natin sa college ay suportado ako sa ganitong pag-aaral. 'Di ba? Pag suportado ako sa ganitong pag-aaral, pagtutuloy-tuloy ko na para pasayahin yung sumusuporta sa akin. Hindi ganun. Hindi laging ganun. Minsan may inaaral ka kasi yun lang yung gusto mo. Yun yung alam mo. 'Di ba? Hindi naman alam ng lolo mo yun eh. 'Di ba? Pero susuportahan ka niya. Ang minarket, yung sinusuportahan ka niya. O di goods, alam mo na yun. Pero gumadit ka dun dahil hindi nga alam ng lolo mo yun. So yun yung ipapractice mo, yun yung pinactice mo. So for me, very basic. The calm part is me trying to communicate to the listener, trying to communicate to myself as the monologuist, right? And eventually be able to record really fine points when I start doing and when I start making conversation, diba? When I start bringing in guests, that if I could, yung point ko, kunyari sa iba na, if I could bring you to this point of, kunyari, madala kita sa ganitong usapan, however abstract it is, however kalat-kalat it is, however sort of, sinasabi mo, masyadong English, masyadong mabigat, masyadong ganito, makakapasagot ka pa rin naman, diba? Para sasabihin mo, sa tingin ko kasi ang sinasabi mo, 'di ba? Yung abstract nga, 'di ba, na kahit sabog-sabog pa 'yan, as long as we could understand it, konting-konting pagtingin lang, may maaalala ka na. One, because you're tao, meron kang hinuhold na memories eh. Maalala mo lang 'yun, you could already sort of use that as a springboard para to speak your truth, to speak what you know, to report something that you are interested in. Very easy, you know. And you'll be I think very positive, and you'll feel very blessed to realize that yung kumbaga sa Tagalog, just to translate the sound a bit, to sort of transcribe the sound, maintindihan mo na masasarapan kayo, magagalak ka dun sa upon realizing that things could get easier. Things could get, yung dating kaya mo lang makinig sa akin ng 15 minutes, tapos parang ayaw mo na, ba to? O kaya yung now tumatagal ka na parang, syempre ako, sarap na sarap ako pag pinapahinggan ko sarili ko, trabaho ko to eh. Pero if you could push yourself to listen to the end and then really sort of, there is something about what Rezbt S Podcast is doing, then that's my way of telling you I'm thankful for you for doing that. I'm thankful for you for resonating with me in that fashion. And the reward of that, yun nga, is based on neurology, brain plasticity, pag-aaral ng pag-aaral, the meta of things na as you go into it, as you go understand really, habang nagbababad ka dun sa isang bagay, mas lalo mo na siyang may enjoy, mas lalo na siyang magiging enjoyable. Then you can multitask, then you can share it with others, then sort of napapasa yung spirito, 'di ba, of the teaching, 'di ba? Kahit it doesn't have to be like sacred, it doesn't have to be like sometimes, it's just like the characters of learning of Chinese character, or learning how things divide, 'di ba? Paano nagiging two, yung multiplication, 'di ba? Yung pinaka basic lang na yun, once you really dig deep into that logic, how 1 times 2 equals 2, 1 multiplied by 2 equals 2. When you really understand that now, when you really just remember that, that's when things start to really make sense. That's when things start to really pile up. Diba? And then we pile that up, we gather that, record it, and put it on a shelf, right? Once we put it on a shelf, it's good enough for us, right? My name is Rez Toledo. I will end with that. Thank you so much for joining me in this Rezbt S Podcast. I wish to see you more often in the comment section or in the Rezbt S Podcast Hub. Just search for Rezbt S Podcast Hub. I always update the episode. Sinasabi ko yung RSP episode, ganyan. So, ganito, ganyan. I do almost 2 episodes a week. And then I've premiere the vidcasts every Thursdays and Sundays on YouTube and on Facebook. But they're all on Spotify, available for audio. If you're a listener, I just want to really let you know that I'm thankful na tinatagalan mo ganito. And I hope na you help me simply grow this podcast to your friends, to your loved ones, because this is the same thing, literally my loved ones, all my loved ones know that I do podcasts now. And as a listener, if you're listening to podcasts, na-discover mo na, diba? Or marami ka nang natutunan. If this is your favorite podcast, help a brother out, and like, just be neutral about it. Positive. Hindi naman tayo kailangan laging positive, ethics na lang lagi, diba? Good or bad na lang lagi, diba? Parang we're not all in the place of naman to judge everything eh. But this is just my way of saying na kahit ano pa yan, I hope you could help me grow this podcast, grow this show, and share it with at least 1 or 2 people who could listen. Kung matuwa sila, let them join the space, or let them sort of like the page, find the access points, so to speak. I'll end with that. Maraming salamat. Thank you very much again, and I'll see you in the next episode. Rezbt S Podcast out.